Have you ever wondered what we've done with all the time-saving devices that we've purchased to save time? It seems like we should have tons of time available at our fingertips. Ever wondered, computers are faster than ever before, as are our phones. Fast food is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You don't have to wait very long. Internet speed, if you pay enough, is phenomenal. You no longer have to wait for a gas station attendant to service two other cars before they come to your car to service your car and check your oil and wash your windshield. Remember those days? Yeah, I'm dating myself. There are fast lane or not so fast lane checkouts. I just love it when somebody with two grocery baskets full of groceries gets into the fast lane and or the self-checkout. You can have your groceries delivered to your house or ready for you to pick up when you get there. You can have food delivered to your house, DoorDash, other Grubhub, other kinds of things. You don't even have to go pick it up. Somebody's finally learned, the pizza folks had a pretty good thing going there. You can even have gasoline brought to your house. Yeah, there are services that will bring gasoline to your house. Fewer and fewer people are cutting their own lawn, and there's just a proliferation of lawn services, people taking advantage of that. And have you ever seen the automatic lawnmower? There's a couple of houses in our neighborhood that have them. They're little boxes, and they're somehow pre-programmed to stay within the yard, and it must work on a weed eater type basis because you can kind of hear it, and it just kind of goes like one of those room carpet, vacuum things, except there's no walls for it to bounce off. And when we walk around our neighborhood and we see that, we're like, how does it know where to stop? And somehow it's programmed, but you can just turn it on and let it go, and you save a lot of time. Amazon offers a lot of home services that are billed as time-saving. That's kind of like a very key word in a lot of areas now. And some of these have been around for a long time, but Amazon offering house cleaning, goat grazer. If you've got like thorns and thistles around you can rent a goat. And they'll come. There you go, Toby. There's a new business for you there. Rent a goat. And you can book that through Amazon. Of course, yeah. See, Toby's got a ton of goats, and he'll be glad to rent a goat to you. So that'll save you time and create extra for him. Anyway, assembly. You can have somebody come and assemble your IKEA furniture. You can order that through Amazon. Thank you, Mr. Bezos. You can have smart home consultation. Somebody will actually come and help you know how to buy and install and operate tons of time-saving devices. Hammock setup. For the hammock you will never sleep in because you don't have time to sleep and rest in that hammock. Music lessons, home organization consultation, holiday light installation. If you don't want to put up your own Christmas lights, you can, of course, there's house painting, printer setup, could be computer kinds of things. A lot of, it's just like, wow. And all of those are billed as time-saving devices. Well, here's something I found interesting also on Amazon. This is not a commercial for Amazon. It's just giving them credit. A no-tie shoe system. If you have shoelaces. I don't know how it works because I didn't look that carefully. It just caught my eye because of the time-saving aspect to it. You have shoelaces, you can somehow put this time, and it'll save you time. So I got curious. I untied one of my shoes, timed myself tying it, and it took 5 seconds. So 2 shoes, 10 seconds. So I think it was $10.95 to save me 10 seconds a day. So anyway, it's billed as a time-saving device. They're available in a variety of stylish shades, including reflective options for nighttime safety, just so you know. And then there's one more, quick dry hair towel wrap. Say this is how they bill it. Say, quote, save precious time and protect your lovely locks with the Euler Tex Quick Dry Microfiber Hair Towel Wrap. In 10 minutes, the towel absorbs almost 75% of the water in your hair after washing. The manufacturer says not only does that save you time and money, but it also helps avoid blow-drying damage to your hair. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for saving time. I like time saving. But what do we do with the time that we save? What do we do? It seems like we should be the most leisure-laden country in the world, and we might have a lot of time off. But what do we do with our time off work? There's something for us to think about. It seems like many, if not most Americans, fill their time up to and beyond their limit. Thus the song, running on empty. So many people fall into bed night after night after night, just absolutely physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. And while there are days or times of the year or seasons or special projects or something that obviously push us to that kind of a limit, it's more and more of us as Americans are living a lifestyle of that. And I wish I had learned some of this a lot earlier in life. Dr. Richard Swenson, who's the author of the book Margin that we cited last week, talking about margin, creating margin in life. Just like we don't write edge to edge on a piece of paper. There's reasons for that. We shouldn't fill up our time edge to edge, day after day after day. We shouldn't fill up our finances, spend our money to the limit. A wise man has a precious storehouse of oil in his house, and a foolish man, Proverbs says, uses it all up. And a time reserve, a margin in our time is time that's either intentionally not scheduled or scheduled for rest and renewal. Do you build that into your schedule? Richard Swenson, the author of that book, writes this, quote, "One would have hoped that the process of progress would have been kind to our emotional life, making it ever easier to replenish our reserves. It might have seemed reasonable to speculate that as our society improved in the areas of education, affluence, entertainment, we would see a commensurate improvement in overall emotional well-being." And of course, he's making the case that that's not the case. And he says, furthermore, such has not been the case. These advancements have not resulted in unburdened emotions and liberated psyches. But why not? Our babies seldom die anymore. Famine is virtually unknown to most of us. We have telephones when we get lonely, air conditioners when we get hot, aspirin when we have a toothache, and television when we get bored. Why then do so many remain so emotionally drained? I'm not suggesting that emotional turmoil and emptiness is an invention of the modern age, for this type of pain has been with us since the beginning of humankind. Yet, as our survival needs were secured by civilizational improvements, might we have expected that emotional disorders would increasingly disappear? Anxiety, depression, suicide and suicide gesturing, personality disorders, obsessive behaviors, eating disorders, panic attacks, alcohol and other drug abuse, phobias, psychosis, these are not diagnoses on the verge of extinction. Instead, these maladies seem to thrive in our society like weeds in a garden, and they drain us emotionally. There's an assumption that you will be on some type of medication. One observer commented, and I quote, "Millions of suburbanites seem to find that the good life is only endurable under sedation." Many Americans use alcohol and drugs to escape the reality of their everyday life, willing to risk everything for a high, for a release, for some relaxation that is drug-induced. Maybe they believe that the world that they can escape is better than the world in which they live on a daily basis. This is not a talk about drug addiction. It's about the stress we feel. Stressed out. Filling or actually draining our emotional reserves. Running on empty. No longer running on fumes. Running on empty. We often require some kind of distraction, some type of sedation, some type of something to help us sleep, some type of something to help our minds shut down. We are definitely running to the very limit. Now let me ask you this question. If Jesus were your appointment secretary, how would he fill your schedule? It's an interesting question, isn't it? If you gave him permission to set your schedule and to be your appointment schedule, what would he include? What would he eliminate? What kinds of things? Maybe he would schedule some times for you to lie down in some green pastures. Maybe, just maybe, he would schedule some time for you to sit by some still waters. Sound a little bit familiar? Psalm 23 says this, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul." Here's the Houghton interpreted version of that verse. "The Lord is my appointment secretary. He is in charge of my schedule. He schedules time for me to rest in green pastures and gives me time to sit still by the quiet waters so that my soul can be refreshed and renewed." Have you learned the secret of refreshing and renewal? Or have you bought into the modern society's take it to the limit, fill up your schedule, be busy? Are you basing your self-esteem on how busy you are, not how productive you are, but how busy you are? And do you fall in bed every night? And do you not have time for the more important things because your schedule is so full of lesser things in life? Some serious questions. So not only is Jesus, if he is your appointments secretary, if Jesus was your personal Lord, let's up the ante a little bit. Wouldn't he do the same? Wouldn't he schedule times for you to rest, to be renewed? More than time off from work. Studies indicate we're working more hours per week than we did a few years ago. And that's not necessarily the bad thing, although we can definitely push that to the limit for sure. So what do we do with our time off of work? Even our vacations are what? We have to take a vacation from our vacations. We have to go back to work to rest. And then we have to spend the rest of the year or so paying for that vacation that was so hectic and frantic, perhaps. Now, I'm never one that would go and just sit on a beach and read a book. I just can't do that. That's not my idea of a vacation. I can walk up and down that beach. I used to run up and down that beach, but my sciatica doesn't let me do that anymore. But just to, but if that's your thing, more power to you. So here we go. Pastor Rick Warren says this: "For many people, the barrier to spiritual growth is not lack of commitment, but overcommitment to the wrong kinds of things." Overcommitment to the wrong kinds of things. So many good things. You've heard it said that good can be enemy of the best. Good can be the enemy of the best. And are you choosing the best in life? Are you choosing to eliminate good things? I learned a long time ago that if you want to make a tree more productive, you give it less to do. You trim it. You cut off good branches. And lo and behold, you know what that tree will do if you eliminate good branches? The ones that are left will be even more productive. It seems that Jesus' secret to productivity is not giving us more and more and more and more and more to do. It's actually giving us less of the more important things in life to do. So, the Hebrew Scriptures, otherwise known as the Old Testament. We're gonna just delve into this just a little bit. Back in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2, this is after the 7 days that are outlined for us in Genesis chapter 1, those days of creation. Now, whether there's 7 literal days or 7 periods of time, it doesn't matter for this discussion. But look, this is Genesis 2:2. By the seventh day, God had finished the work He had been doing. So on the 7th day, He rested. He rested from all His work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. He made it special because on it He rested from all the work of creating that He had done. Now that word rested is a word that's very similar to another word we're going to talk about in just a moment. You've heard of the Sabbath. In Judaism, they have the Sabbath, which is for them the Saturday, and that's a different word. That's kind of like in Hebrew, Shabbat. This is the word Shavat with a V instead of a B sound. So He rested, and this word means cease and desist. So on day 7, as this is outlined in Genesis chapter 1, He stopped. He didn't stop because He was tired. He stopped because He was done. He stopped because it was complete. He did not wake up. Of course, He doesn't sleep. But He doesn't wake up on day 7 and go, did I forget anything? Wow, no, let me think. Did I? No, he rested out of completion, not out of tiredness. In creation, God put everything in place or in motion that you and I and every person that would ever inhabit this planet would ever need. He forgot nothing. He put it either in place or in motion. Provided for it for in the future, as in a seed that's going to bear fruit, and that's going to have more seeds, and it's going to bear more fruit, and there's seeds, and He either put it in place or provided for it in the future. We do not create anything new. We just take what God has already created and rearrange it into new forms. Nothing new is being created. It's just being put together in new forms from the things that already exist. New things are not coming into existence. We're just discovering what's already in existence and how we can rearrange it. God rested because He was done. Nothing else needed to be done. It was full and it was complete. And I joke with people sometimes and say, even God took a day off. So, God rested. He rested. God does not grow tired, nor does He need to replenish His resources, unlike you and me. He is truly eternal and self-sustaining. His energy, His grace, His love are not lessened by giving them out. His power in creating was not lessened. He did not have less energy on week 2 than He had starting week 1. His energy, His power, His love, nothing is diminished by giving it out and using it. He doesn't have less love for you because He's poured it out on me. He has equal amount for every one of us. He never grows tired or weary or is lacking. Isaiah 40:28, I love this verse. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting, eternal God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and His understanding no one can fathom. We don't understand His understanding. So if you've ever been guilty of saying, God just doesn't understand me, maybe we're the ones that don't understand God. So, there's that 7th day that God blessed and made holy. And then a little bit later on in Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20 is where you find the Decalogue, also known as the 10 Commandments, Deca 10. So the 10 Commandments. And of course, one of those deals with a Sabbath day. Remember, this is Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Kind of like there's a pattern there. God did 6 days and then He rested. So 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. And on it you shall not do any work. Neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male, nor your female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them. But He rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Now, let me just say this. Let me head off some wrong conclusions that you might be jumping to. I am not advocating that the 7th day should be a day of rest. That would be Saturday for us. I'm aware of, I don't know if it's still in existence out on Broad Street going towards Columbus on the other side of Pataskala. There was a Seventh-day Baptist church. And of course, there's a whole denomination of Seventh-day Adventists. and who believe, because they, in my opinion, have some confusion about the Old Testament law, that that's the day. And we're going to see some things in a moment that at least to help you understand my perspective on it, that might make some sense to you. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm going to share with you that anyway. I am not suggesting, even for Sunday, because the Sabbath is not Sunday. It's the first day of the week, not the seventh day of the week. So hold on here. So hopefully I've got your attention here. So in Exodus chapter 23, a couple of chapters later in Exodus, not only was it 1 out of 7 days, but listen to this. For 6 years you're to sow your fields and harvest the crops. Now farmers call that letting your land lie fallow. Yeah, it's just wisdom. It's just wise. And of course they'll rotate their fields and that. But during the 7th year, let the land lie unplowed and unused. And then the poor among your people may get food from it, because there's those volunteers that spring up. You know, they can come, and the wild animals may eat what is left. God even cares about the wild animals. And do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. So let it rest. Let it lie fallow. 6 days do your work, but on the 7th day do not work, so that your ox, your donkey may rest, so that the slave born in your household and the foreigner living among you may be refreshed. May be refreshed. So look at how God was building rest and refreshing into His people. Making it a part of their commands. Making it part of their law. Now, we don't live under that covenant. Jesus said, there's a new covenant in my blood. And to be honest with you, the church has been all over the map when it comes to the Sabbath through the centuries. We're not going to dig into the history of that. But we're not under that covenant, because Jesus instituted a new covenant. Listen to something that Paul wrote regarding special days. In Romans 14, verse 5, one person considers one day more sacred than another. Another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. So Paul's saying, look, some of you still think, some people still think there's one special day. Other people think that Jesus blessed and made every day special, so every day is special. And what he's saying is, he's not saying one is right and the other is wrong. And he's saying, look, just whatever you believe about that, be convinced about it in your own mind. Be convinced about it. It's kind of like, okay, if you want to make the 7th day a day of rest, or if you want to make the first day the day of rest, or if you want to make the 2nd day of the week a day of rest, if you want to not even think of it in terms of days, but of hours, or however, what's the idea? The principle is still the same. Rest and refreshing. Not pushing our time schedule to the limits, edge to edge, leaving margin in our schedules. And look at what Jesus said about the Sabbath in Mark 2:27. The Sabbath was made for man. God says, I did this for you. I didn't do it in order to give you something that you had to adhere to a bunch of laws about. And then the Jewish people were famous for the number of laws they had regarding the Sabbath. They actually had how far you could walk on the Sabbath, how much weight you could carry on the Sabbath, if you were allowed to, you could do something to keep somebody from dying on the Sabbath, but you couldn't do something to help their health on the Sabbath. I mean, there was like it was just so convoluted, and that's what happens when we start living by laws instead of out of love. So God, think about this. How many of y'all like weekends? God created weekends. Saturday is the Jewish, from our Judeo-Christian heritage in our country. There were a number of people that took Saturday as their Sabbath, and there were a number of people that took Sunday as their Sabbath. And so that Judeo-Christian heritage gave us our weekends. God has literally created everything that you love. And whether your weekends on a lot of people, their weekends are not Saturday and Sunday. If you have a rotating schedule, for pastors, of course, Sunday's the only day of the week we work. So, little kid who goes to school and, show and tell, my daddy's a pastor. He doesn't work except one day a week. So, but what the idea is rest. The idea is more than just rest. I mean, naps are holy. It's like, naps are holy things. But more than napping, refreshing. What do you do to refresh your soul? What do you do to take in? What do you do to get rid of the stuff you want to dump? We're not going to go into that today because it's just too much of a chunk. Here's what I want you to know. God creates opportunities for us to rest, to be refreshed and renewed because He loves us. He loves you too much to work you to death. He loves you too much to work you to death. Acts 20, verse 28 is a part of an instruction that Paul gave to a group of pastors from the city of Ephesus. And as he was meeting with them, this is so instructive to us. Acts 20:28 says this: "Keep watch, take care of yourselves and all the flock, all the church over which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers." Take care of yourselves. Be on guard for yourselves. Whenever I think of that verse, I always think of what the flight attendant says. If you are traveling with small children and this thing pops down and you put this mask, what do they always say to do first? Put yours on first. Because if you're gasping for breath while trying to put a mask on this squiggly octopus in the seat next to you, you could end up passing out and you're of no use to yourself or to the child sitting next to you. Take care of yourselves because you matter. You matter. Now, obviously, that can move into selfishness. But before it moves into selfishness, there is this: I need to take care of myself so that I can take care properly of people around me, fulfilling my responsibility of love to them. Take care of yourselves. Now, these concepts are often referred to in today's world as aspects of soul care. Soul care. You have a soul, but you're more than a soul. Having a soul, you are a soul. And the Scripture speaks about our soul. Well, let me just briefly introduce you to this idea, soul care. Soul care, and I quote, is all about living from a place of overflow, not running on empty. I added that. Learning to stop occasionally for conversation, the chance to read, to rest, to open up to God's presence, guidance, and ultimately His love. Soul care is all about bravely living into the destiny that God has for you in His power, under His direction, and in His way. I'm going to quote some more. Sometimes the demands of everyday life keep us from tending to the inner life, what goes on in here. Sometimes we severely undervalue the importance of our interior world. But the rock-solid truth is this: our soul's health drives everything that matters to us. Our soul's health drives everything that matters to us. Kind of sounds like the proverb that says, above all else, guard your heart, for out of it flows the issues of life. Everything about your life, your personhood, is in some way a function of your soul. The health of your soul matters. And your soul, your very being, cries out for rest. And rather than blaming it on everybody else, blaming it on my boss, blaming it on my spouse, blaming it on my kids, blaming it on so many demands that are being made of me, why don't we take charge of our schedule? And stop offering the lame excuse, I don't have time for this because I'm so committed over there. I don't have time for more important things because I'm overcommitted to lesser things. I can't afford to spend money on that because I've overcommitted my finances over here. Yes, Jesus calls for us to have a serious examination of our priorities and our commitments in life and the things that we add to our schedule. So I give you a guilt-free token. It's invisible. And it's in your pocket. I snap my fingers and it's in your pocket. And you can pull it out of your pocket anytime you want this week and say, and in your mind, I have a guilt-free pass to say no to that. Because Pastor Jeff has the power and authority to make that happen. No, you have the power and the authority. Do you have a hard time saying no to people? Do you feel guilty when you say no? You know there's a lot of people you need to say no to that you're not currently saying no to. Well, we could come to the boundaries class and we'll help figure all that stuff out. And I give you that guilt-free pass to say no. But hopefully you exercise your right to say yes to the right things, to the best things for you and your family. We have two sets of kids, same husband and wife, but two sets of kids. There's 10 years between number 3 and number 4. We actually thought we were done with when number 3 came around, but 10 years later, God blessed us with number 4, and then 2.5 years after that or so, He blessed us with number 5. And so Terry and I have had this opportunity to evaluate choices and parenting things between, when number 4 came along. We kind of thought, what are some changes we want to make? And we had a rule, which was great for the first 3. You're only allowed to be involved in one activity at a time. But that not including church. Church, there was church things. We're only allowed to be involved in one activity at a time. Well, you know what happens when there's a family of 5 and there's 3 kids? When one child is involved in something, that means all 5 of them are. Because they got to go to that event. They got to go. And then you got everybody, so like dinner time. And I can remember eating, dinner in the car while they were warming up in the ball field. And that was fine. We loved doing all that. So somewhere along the way, and there was a day, there's North Newark Little League, and then there used to be softball fields behind Myers. They left all to go to Kroger. Used to be Meyer. Remember that? Anyway, it was one day my son Joel was playing here at North Newark, and Jenna, or I think it was playing softball over there behind. And of course, there's a bike path that just goes right between the two. And it's kind of like, there was one day I'm out of town on a mission trip, and Joel had a basketball game at the Y, and Jenna had a gymnastics meet somewhere like Chillicothe, and Christy had a swim meet somewhere like Athens, and Terry had to make arrangements to get, it was like, whoo, and that's just with one child allowed to be in one activity at a time. And it's just like, somewhere along the line, for me, I went, this is my decision, our decision, this is crazy. So, with numbers 4 and 5, this is just our decision. We decided one person's allowed to be in something at a time. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, meal times, when you sit down and have time to chat and talk, are just precious, just valuable. Meal times without screens. Not sitting down in front of the TV, not everybody eating in different rooms of the house, everybody at the same table, no cell phones, no tablets allowed. Because we want to interact, we want to know, how was your day? Tell me something about your day. We want to interact. We want to build relationships. We want to simplify life for the health of everybody concerned. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, for the health of everybody concerned. Isaiah, we read Isaiah 40:28 a moment ago. I want to read a couple more verses. Isaiah 40:28 through 31 as we begin to land this plane. Do you not know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and His understanding no one can fathom. Here's verse 29. He gives strength to the weary. The one who has all strength, the one who never grows tired, will give us strength. Of course, we've got to let him be our appointments secretary. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary. And some of you in your 30s, your 40s, yeah, even you get tired and weary. Just wait till you're 60. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who wait, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Those who learn to order their life under His lordship. Those who learn to walk in His paths. Those who learn to implement His principles. Those who learn to be a doer of the Word. Those who learn that by following Jesus, life gets better, not worse. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. You know, there's a rest God wants to bring you into. It's the rest from your sin, the rest from your efforts to save yourself, the rest from the effort of trying to be good enough to earn forgiveness, the rest from the efforts of trying to please God, the rest from trying to appease God. Because all of those things, the reason why you've perhaps never rested from those things is because all of those things are impossible. You can't. Eternal life, forgiveness of sins, salvation is a free gift. What we deserve is death, but the gift of God is eternal life and all that comes with it. It's eternal, by the way, because of the quality of it. There's no corruption in it. It's eternal, and it's a free gift. And you can rest from those labors. You can rest from the efforts of trying to be good enough, moral enough. You can rest from that by inviting Christ into your life. Let me give you some questions to ask yourself. Number one, what will you do to make sure you're creating margin in your lifestyle for rest and renewal? What will you do? What will you do? Number two, if Jesus were your appointment secretary, what changes would He make in your priorities and your schedule? Let's pray.